welcome once again to Crazy Comics and Stories. It's me, your charming and delightful old Uncle Rat Bastard in a cop car.
Woo, woo, woo!
And
it's like the incident all over again.
And in the seat next to me,
in the driver's seat. I may be a rider, but I'm a terrible passenger.
Joe, Crazy Rider. How you doing today, Joe?
Oh, I haven't road raged anybody yet, so we're doing good.
Well, that's because we're on side streets.
That's true. And we're starting out early. As Cory said, I don't know when this is going to drop, but you have a rare couple of weekdays off.
I do. I took 3 days off because I couldn't get the whole week off.
Those bastards.
It was like, yeah, we need people Monday and Tuesday. But you say to take our time off, you can't have Monday and Tuesday off. But it's no.
You can't have it. You can't have it.
It's
cool.
like I wanted to take all of WrestleMania week off, so not because I'm going to be WrestleMania, but because of PW Insider, I usually end up covering a bunch of indie shows. And no Monday, no Tuesday.
Yeah. Well, I normally have my days off. We're switching gears at work pretty soon, so I'll have to talk with you. It's our semi-annual bid where everybody's up in the air. I actually am pretty favorably positioned. We have what we call a tiebreaker, where the same people hired on the same date, and there's like 6 of us. They just shuffle us around. And last time, because I demoted, I was like in last place, and I just took Wednesday, Thursday. I've got less than 3 years to go. I don't need any weekends off. I don't need weekdays off. I was always easy because when I had the kids in the house, to keep them out of daycare, I always took weekdays. Everybody wants the weekends. So it's a lot of pressure, you know, and as the tiebreaker come out, you know, I was going to take a class on this day. Oh, this people's going to take my shift. And blah, blah, blah. I'm like, whatever. But I am in a good position, so I don't know. The only real decision I have is, do I want to take a weekend off and maybe do some comic shows? Try to wean out my highly desirable collection of crap? Or do I just say F it and...
Well, if you wait till later, it's worth more.
Well, and, you know, I got this real bug in my head that says, you know, maybe I should just, for 6 months, pop up a shop, bring every single collectible I have that I want to get rid of, and sell it fast. And if it takes off, like some of the shops we might hit today, like Mr. Zero's or Hero Games and Collectibles over in Minnehaha Avenue in Minneapolis, they don't do new comics. Brian Messick's store, K&B Collectibles in Menominee, they don't do new comics. And they don't do it well. So, you know, a long time ago, before Gruber and I bought Hot Comics, we were talking with John Nunziata of St. Paul comic fame. And his advice to us, you do new or you do old. You can't do both. Because what will happen is you'll have a collection of something come in, and it's like, well, that's the money I was going to pay to Cap City for next week's comics, or you're going to buy the... And eventually he decided to stop carrying new comics.
Now, when I moved here, and I found that shop, he had already gotten out of new comics.
Okay, by that time, Pat and we moved from there to Hot Comics.
And I had never been to a shop that only had old stuff. Every shop I'd been to, even if they specialized in the older stuff, still carried new comics because that's how you get your future back issues.
John was kind of a future trendsetter. I was told the story about how when he first started, he ran around town and bought all the Golden Age he could possibly find, regardless of price. All the dealers thought he was an idiot. And then Golden Age prices went insane. He was the only guy in town that had Golden Age.
Yep.
And this is to my old partner Pat Chagrin. You know, he used to restore comics back when it was verboten. You know, if you restored a comic, you had to say it, and you get the purple label if you CGC'd it. Nowadays, they don't have a purple label, and there's guys actively, I bought this, I took the stains out of it, I took the coloring, I pressed it flat, and I'm like, I thought that was forbidden. But different world. Or what's going to happen is the world will implode. We've seen it before where comic prices get in a bubble, and then all of a sudden people realize, I'm trying to think of when this happened. I think it was in the 80s. It was like everybody was like, oh my God, look at the mint prices are going up and up. They're dragging the very good and the fine and the very fine prices up. And then all of a sudden the bubble burst because people realize, you know what, there are more, let me rephrase that, there are less near mint copies around than there are good, very good. It's just because near mint goes up doesn't mean it's going to drag the good price up.
Well, it is a different market now, because back then, in the 80s, most of the stuff that people were looking for was 60s, 60s and before, and there were not as many collectors back then. There were a lot more readers, so there were more books that people had read and read and read. I would say, you could probably say since the mid-80s, the majority of comics have sold to comic book fans only. So there are fewer fine, good, etc., what they call reader copies, because most people, they'd read it once or twice and they'd put it in their collection. So while not everything's going to be near mint, you're going to have more of the very good, very fine and above. That's my belief. And also, we are in a bubble that's based on media properties, because now if they announce something's going to be in a movie, the next day it's gone up 20,000% in price.
There's also a couple other factors too. Is first of all, the guide was Overstreet, and then as we got into the 80s and 90s, you saw Comic Values Monthly, we saw Wizard. But in order to buy what you wanted, you had to buy it at your comic store.
Yeah.
If you were mobile, you could visit other comic shops. I wasn't as a kid. The other thing is the internet. How many times do I go online and I'm like, oh man, this guide says this book is like $50, and I see people selling it for $5.
Or conversely, $50 and people are selling it for $500.
Because the guide isn't fast enough. The guide only tells you what it's sold for, not what it's going for. How many people, well, I don't want to say lost money, but essentially all of a sudden, oh my gosh, Avenging Spider-Man 9, why is it a $200 book? I sold mine for $5 yesterday. So, well, people say it is because it's the first time she called herself Captain Marvel. And so there's a lot of, I see a lot of that type of speculating still. First appearance of this. The other thing you talk about, reader copies are gone. People like me have been buying reader copies now for 20 years because I don't have $2,000 plus to buy a mint copy of Hulk 181. And that's assuming I want a copy and not just willing to buy one of the many reprints, collections, or go online and do it. The other place I see it going up a lot are in independents, especially if, like what you said, Davey, so, oh, this is going to be a property. Well, nobody bought it to begin with. Boom. Whether it becomes a movie or not. Well, we used to, what was it Amazing Heroes? They used to do a
Hero History.
Hero History, yeah, the way they talk about, okay, here are the movies that were announced, here's what we know as of now. And a lot of it's like, no, just disappeared. Option disappeared in the development hell. Now it's owned by Disney, we don't know what's going on.
Well, and how many times in the 90s did, your indie... Rob Liefeld was notorious for this. Tom Cruise's company has optioned blah, blah, blah. An option just means, okay, nobody else can take it. They were optioning everything because, hey, if we have it, they can't. Now, an option doesn't mean much of anything other than no one else can make a movie about it. Doesn't mean there's a script, doesn't mean there's a director, doesn't mean there's even production started.
They probably paid whoever owns the property more money than they've ever made making a comic book.
Yeah.
So they're like, hey, this is easy. We've been hearing how long has, properties I'd love to see. Bone, Liberty Metals, always optioned. Nothing has come.
Bone was optioned by Nickelodeon. And he was doing so much work on the option that he couldn't do the comic for a while. That's why Bone had the huge gap. Who knows how much money Wendy and Richard Pini have made off all the different options for ElfQuest. Nothing's come out, but it's always under option.
If I was I don't know who options things, producers or...
mostly either studios or production companies.
I go to my local comic shop and just say, give me one of everything. Read it, and if I like it, I'd option it. So many times I read something, and I'm like, that should go to comic book. And then it's like, well, there was options. So,
well, and the new movie, Marry Me.
Oh, that we talked about, yeah.
Yeah. The guy who did that comic, he was just doing a webcomic. Keen Spot printed it. And now it's a big blockbuster movie with Jennifer Lopez and Owen Wilson. You watch the ad, there's no mention of the comic.
No. Might be a creator credits somewhere.
You actually have to go to either their website or Wikipedia to find out it's based on thus and such comic. Now the guy who created it probably made a nice chunk of change. And if he has any points, good for him. That's how it should be when something is picked up. Now, if you're at Marvel or DC, Ed Brubaker talks a lot about how he got $5,000 for Winter Soldier when the movie came out. Movie made at $500 million. He got $5,000.
I didn't invite it to the movie premiere. Oh, by the way, rights for the Crazy Comics and Stories is still available, so you know what to do, who to contact if you want to option our fascinating sojourn into the realm of podcasting.
Operators are standing by.
Although you're going to have to work hard, especially for that first meeting scene where I chewed you out on the phone for no reason. We need some solid acting for that. That's an Academy Award moment.
Well, and the other thing is, if you call me to try and get the rights, I don't answer my phone.
Yeah,
I'm one of those people who look at the phone and go, I don't know anybody in Wisconsin.
Which is more than Bill Murray does. So you're a step closer to us than Bill Murray. So anyways, Cory said he had a day off, and I said, Geek Day! And he said, okay. And we tried the normal suspects, which is why you don't hear our buddy Butch in the background.
Never got back to us. He's gotten very bad about returning emails.
Emails, phone calls.
Well, you can't call him because his phone went into a pool.
And the other one, too, is we didn't go and mail a notice to his door, which we probably should have. The other thing we're doing...
Or a Spider-Man mask.
We're starting out really early because it's going to snow later today. Not just regular snow, but moderate snow. Originally, I was thinking of doing a road trip because there's a couple of shops. There's like a toy show. Actually, there's a couple of toy shows coming up. One is the 26th, February 26th, up in Granite City, Saturday, which I can't get off. And then, of course, the Minnesota Toy Posse is having their first one on the 27th, which I will go to because it opens at 9. I can go hang a couple hours and go to work. That's not what I think
you'll be going in wearing your badge.
Well, I got to keep it covered up. All right, I got to confiscate this toy. Homeland Security. It's a risk. Anyways, because it's going to snow, the two shops I wanted. There's a toy show. Did it again. Shop down in Rochester that deals just in vintage toys. I think it's called Midwest Vintage Toys. Come to think of it, and they're always popping up on Facebook. Hey, we buy your toys. And they actually have a shop. And I thought that might be fun to go to. And then we visit a couple of the stores down in Rochester. There's also a die-cast store. I don't know if you're interested in this one, which is just north of Menominee. That I thought would be fun to go to. And then we could drop south and visit Candy Collectibles and is it Heroes World, I think? The comic store that's in Menominee.
Oh, I don't remember.
I maybe actually hit the store in Eclair we always were trying for, but we got detoured. However, while I am a Minnesotan and I drive well in snow, I also realize it's not wise to drive in snow, even if you do it well. So we're going to start out early. We're going to try to hit as many stores as we can. And if it just gets too crappy, because, I got some concern for my best bud Cory here, because, I'll get home fine, but he's still got to drive across town in this shit.
And if I die, who's going to put the podcast up?
Yeah. Lord knows I won't. I'll just sit back and live off the royalties.
And, do Facebook Live or whatever.
And maybe get a hold of your son and say, listen, I got a better idea for your dad's stuff. Anyways.
I don't know. He's pretty wise on how to get rid of stuff.
Well, it's not only that, but, I could tell him what would be worth donating, what would be worth selling. I don't know if your kid has any heartstring tugs like he wants. I'll keep this because it was my dad's, that type of thing.
I don't think so. He's never been somebody who's into things other than he always wants the most powerful computer he could possibly get.
Well, there's my angle. I'll say, listen, I'll help you sell some of this stuff. You'll get you a couple grand. You can make the most powerful computer out there. You give me a goal, I'll make it for you.
Because when I went down to his apartment, he has the 3-screen set up at his desk where you sit down and it's like, this is like a Cinerama screen.
My daughter's boyfriend, who made a cameo when you were sitting on the couch, he's that way upstairs. He's got 2 screens. And a lot of times at night we had to tell him, okay, you got to turn down the surround sound, because all we hear, because we're directly under you, all we hear is boom, boom. Other than if his door's up and he's like, son of a blankety, kind of like me driving. And again, if that's what he wants. But he does, he brings over his Pokemon cards. I told him I'd help sell them if he wants. So let's see.
I am amazed. Pokemon's been around for 20 years. Well, over 20 years now.
Oh, yeah.
And it's still huge.
Yeah, and people are still insane about it. I mean, walk into Target or Walmart, we limit you to 2 packs a day. And there's been times I've been in there and I see the packs and I'm like, are these the packs that everybody are nuts about? I don't think I want to go down that rabbit hole.
No.
Although if I knew, I certainly would. Kind of like right now, the 2 hot toys that I'm looking for.
Hot toys.
Hot, if I can find them. There's a Quasar figure, the one we know, which I believe is a Walgreens exclusive. And then Peacemaker. I'd love to get a Peacemaker figure, but the one that's out now is the one without the helmet. I want the one with the helmet. Or maybe I'll wait. Maybe they'll have one with removable helmets. I don't know. And it also comes with an arm of King Shark, and I don't really need that. So a couple of the guys said, like, hey, I dropped one off at Nerding Off, I dropped one on Nerding Out, I dropped one off at Hot Comics, trading. So if we hit those stores, maybe I'll look. Otherwise, got a couple toy shows coming up. And I want the loose one. I don't really care.
Joe, there's a sign. You can work at the airport.
Oh, that sounds like a bad idea. I'm not.
It's a bad neighborhood.
I'm not with the airport. I'm with the government. I'm here to help. I'm here to help. Hip, hip. He was busy untangling a cord. I thought he was looking at me. The guy on the overhead was like making wild hand gestures. And I was like, hey, I'll honk. Yes, you got a pretty middle nail. Now put it down.
He was waving at you and still had fingers left.
Half a peace sign, yes. So, we're out
letting us know his IQ.
Our first shop that I'm aiming for is Antique, Minnesota, because it's open and it's close to Mind's Eye.
You make it sound like it's the Little Caesars Pizza.
It is.
Is it good? It's hot and it's ready. But is it good? It's hot.
Yeah.
And it's ready.
Well, and they have 2 things that I like. Guys who sell lots of comics and die casts. And, of course, all the other fun stuff. I always think about when I go through Antique, Minnesota, because I went there one time with my daughter, Dana. I think we were just geeking. I don't think it was any, like, special occasion or anything. And, oh, this is beautiful. Come on, buddy, get in front of me. Yeah, I look like a cop, but you don't have to treat me like one. Very good. See, that wasn't too road ragey. Anyways.
It's still early.
We were driving. No, we were in Antiques, Minnesota. And yeah, we walk around, and I found some things to buy, and I brought them home. And later on, a couple days later, my wife said, "Are you okay?" And I'm like, "Yeah, why?" So, well, Dana said you seem so sad when you're walking through Antique, Minnesota. And I was thinking, like, yeah, I suppose I am, because that's probably what I want to do rather than what I am doing. Hence the talk in the beginning of the show about maybe I'll just open a shop without new comics, as opposed to, dealing with the new comic thing every week.
Come on, having multiple distributors is fun.
Yeah.
Being shorted stuff is fun.
Yeah.
Not getting your comics because there are a bunch of angry truckers in Canada is fun.
Where there was a snowstorm where the warehouse was.
Yeah.
Wait a minute, how come they got their comics and I didn't? Yeah. I'm
How
curious,
come I didn't get any comics past the letter Q?
I'm curious though, because this was years ago as I was leaving, as I sold off Hot Comics, and I asked my distributor, I said, if I wanted to continue my account, what would I do? And he was like, would you have an online presence? I said, well, of sorts. He said, well, the online presence at the time was like a minimum $1,200. Again, this is the 2000s, so I don't know what it is now. To do a comic store, you only needed $500 a month. And the reason they had it that high is because they were trying to stop what they call buyer clubs, where like 5-6 people get together, open an account with no real retail base, and then just sell comics
To each other.
well, mostly just for themselves, you know. And that made sense, and that was actually something I thought about, because I remember talking with Gruber and Big Mike, and they're like, you could just buy it. And I said, yeah, but then I'd have to keep the idea that I was a retail store up, and sooner or later somebody would realize I wasn't. Plus, I wanted out.
Yeah.
So it worked out fine for what I did.
Buyers clubs were very big in the 80s. I remember there was a guy near Canton, Illinois, who basically took all his comics, sealed his garage, and set it up there. He was selling his back issues out of his garage, and he had some new stuff. And I remember asking him at the time, well, how do you get the new stuff? Oh, I have an account with, it was either Glendale or Friendly Frank's. And I said, but you don't sell enough. I can't imagine, you're on a gravel road outside of Canton, Illinois. And he's like, oh, no, like 5 or 6 of us, we put in our order. That way we get the discount and everything. And I order a few that I'm going to sell as back issues, but, when they come out, I just put them here in case somebody drops by to buy stuff. And he knew about 20, 30 people who would come and buy back issues every so often. I always thought that was a weird sort of interesting thing, that if they wanted to drop by, you go, well, yeah, I have a store, see, my garage. You don't have any signs, you don't have a phone number, how do people find out about your store? Well, if I run into them in town and they're buying comics at the newsstand, I say, hey, I got back issues.
Yeah. Well, that was even towards my end run, is that he said one of the reasons they do that is because they didn't count an eBay store as an eBay store. Because when I sold the shop in 2001, eBay stores were becoming a thing. And so people were like, well, I got a store, I got an eBay store. That doesn't count.
I wonder if it counts now, since more and more like chip businesses use eBay.
Well, I say that
and eBay seems to be pushing for more people with stores rather than well, I've got this and I'm just going to sell it because I don't want it anymore.
Well, and they seem to be the best. They still seem to be the 800-pound gorilla for comics. Although I always have people, I don't sell there, I sell here. And it's like, wow, I've never heard of there. And there's even a new WhatsApp. Is that what it is? It's like an online auction site where you could take your stuff and say, hey guys, I'm doing a live auction this day. Come get some. Some of the
I see a lot of those on Facebook.
Yeah, they push it on Facebook because the WhatsApp, you have to have followers, and the followers and people who download the app are the ones who are able to see the show. And I always hear about guys getting great deals doing it, but then I also see, well, I'm doing it Tuesday night. Well, I work Tuesday night. I can't really do it. I had enough time. I got stories of stuff I wanted to get that I lost because it was a regular auction, much less, a specialty type store.
I've seen those where they do them during the day, and all I could think is, you are missing out on so many buyers.
Yeah.
Or, discussion groups where
guess what? I'm bigger than you, and I'm pulling in front of you. So
we're gonna have a discussion about this. What time? 1 in the afternoon. Well, anybody with a job's gonna say no.
Yeah. Yeah, so again, it's got to be a limited thing. Much as I'd love to jump on it, there's even Nerding Out even does their own version of that. They do it, I believe, through Facebook Live, where they will post books and you can, say, hey, I want it. I don't know if they outright sell it or if it's an auction format, but it's always when I'm at work and I never can do it. And they vary their days around. It's just, to me, it's I salute you because it's another way of getting your goods going. I've even taken to a few things on going to like Minnesota Toy Posse or
hey, let's go to Skateville.
Comic Exchange, Minnesota Comic Exchange, where I'll post something and say, hey, this is for sale. If you're interested, PM me. It's always, hey, this toy is $40. If you pick it up at my house, prepay it through PayPal or bring cash. Or if you want me to ship it, $10 more. And I've had hit or miss because I'm not selling, the hot toys. I'm pricing it below eBay, which is my forte. I think I've only sold one item so far.
I know Amazon's trying to get into it, but all the businesses have set up bots so that if something sells, they price it like 10% above that, which is why you see books out of print going for like $400, $500, $600. The bots keep bumping it up.
Yeah.
And you can never tell on there if they've sold anywhere near that price. Whereas eBay, you can see, this guy's got this omnibus at $400, but it's been sitting there for like 9 months.
And you can also click on sold and see what other ones may have sold for that you missed.
Yeah.
I think it's why I like doing the low end.
By the way, I got to hit Target's website. They're doing a buy two, get one free. All books, toy, blah, blah, blah. Their their website has omnibuses.
Yeah. I've also heard horror stories of guys who are like, hey, they just back ordered mine to September, but it's sitting on the store shelf now. What the F?
Because when it's in the store, it's not in the warehouse.
But if you think about it now, it's February, and they're telling you, well, you won't get it until March, and you're like, or until September. I'm like, well, why would I wait? And they also have the odds that people will call up and they'll say, "Oh, sorry, we're out of stock." So, yeah, I put it under the category great idea, but don't be too upset if you don't get it. Which means I'll go look when we get home.
Yay, we're going to Skateville.
Yay! Sorry, it's closed.
But there's a truck there.
That's an ambulance. Let's pick up the body parts.
I used to take group home residents to Skateville.
Put them in their chair. All right.
No, this was when I did juvenile justice.
Oh, good. I was going to say you're a mean bastard if you were. Oh, yeah, here, just go ahead and skate. All right, Antiques, Minnesota. We'll be back after this short commercial break. Hey, that's my line.
Our newest sponsor is NordVPN. Let's be honest, if you're out on the internet, you need a VPN to protect you. There's all sorts of things going on the internet where people can track you. You could accidentally download a keylogger, all sorts of things. NordVPN gives the best security possible. It has a password manager which generates complex passwords, syncs across all your devices, stores your notes and credit card information. It also gives you 10 gigabytes of private cloud storage, secure files. It backs up your data automatically. But the main thing it gives you is peace of mind. It gives you peace of mind when you're out on the internet, when you're streaming, when you're playing games, when you're listening to podcasts like this one. It gives you safety anywhere at any time. It protects your online activity. You get full access to all content. And if you use the link go.nordvpn.net sh3ku, it'll take you to where you can get a great deal for a 1-month plan, a 2-year plan, a 1-year plan. They are our newest sponsor. We're happy to have them. And if you would like to sponsor something here at any of the podcasts on the Solitaire Rose Network, you can. Just email me, solitairerosenetwork@gmail.com. Thanks. So, Mind's Eye.
Good news. He sounds like he's looking to expand.
Yeah.
So that's encouraging.
Now, what was it? A while back, he brought up a bunch of his own stuff. Yep, Tim brought up a bunch of his own stuff. A lot of DVDs and everything. They're all gone.
Did he sell them?
He sold them all.
Good for him.
All the stuff in his... Said he didn't have much left in the bargain bin either, because all that has sold.
Yeah, I was looking for the bargain bin, and it wasn't there. There was a couple boxes of cheap graphic novels. And, for everything he's got, he did tell me Avengers 53 is the hot book, because apparently there's a new Black Panther in it.
Yeah.
So, and I told him, well, that just goes to show as soon as I drop a book, it becomes hot. So I got everything. Next time I drop a book, I'll give you a call and I'll let you know. He was, talking a bit about trying to figure out the free comic book day stuff, because it's not cut and dried. He's got to order through 3 different people. And we talked a bit about the Dark Crisis, because I said that's the book that starts it out. So you definitely want to make sure you got that. But it sounds like things are going good, other than the normal distributor headaches.
He had a bunch of stuff for the comic shop day, which I have not seen anywhere else.
Oh, I didn't. I must have blinked over him.
Yeah, the special shiny covers.
Oh, yeah.
That's why we were talking about shiny covers.
He was telling me about that, yeah.
And that's the big thing, shiny covers are back.
Cool.
DC does, the cardstock covers on every book now, right?
And what's weird is when I get a few of them every so often, those are the ones that tend to go up in value because nobody originally bought them, which is weird to me because they're made to order. They're available if you want them. And some of the times, the art on there is enough to make me want to buy it. Mostly, if they're doing like a Supergirl thing. Although there was one they just did that had a Peacemaker cover that I was tempted, but I don't read the series, so I was like, Much as I like to buy comics for just the cover, not yet. Gotta win that lottery first.
I finally picked up the hardcover reprint of New Fun #1, which was the first DC comic ever printed.
I'm surprised you didn't pick that up already.
It was one of those where they'd solicited it and then canceled it and solicited and canceled, and whatever the final time they solicited it, I was like, ugh, I'm not even going to bother.
I think that's when I ordered it, because I guess it was like, it might have been a low month and I had no omnibuses. I'm like, well, that sounds like it'd be fun. It sits on my shelf. I haven't opened it yet. It's a big book. It's like treasury size.
Yeah. And I really wish they would have reprinted that Detective Before Batman, but we'll never see it.
Yeah.
Because it's got a lot of, I think, some of it was that it was a lot of really, really, really racist stuff in it. But I would have to look, but I think that they had Fu Manchu in it without permission.
I always thought that was on the first cover, number 1.
I'll dig into it a little more. Some of the smaller publishers have said, we're trying to get DC to license it to us. But DC's just kind of, no, we don't do that anymore.
Yeah, which is too bad.
Yeah, they're not even doing the artist editions with IDW anymore.
Which, again, I don't know, money on the table to me, but you never know when they're under the corporate auspices, you never know what is coming downhill because DC keeps tight-lipped about it. There's a lot of things like that we talk about where, they just stop doing it, and it's like, really? It's like money left on the table.
Yeah, both Marvel and DC stopping their black and white phone book size reprints. That really bothers me. I get, Marvel now has the Epic line, and they're going to keep it in print, and they make a lot more money on it. But I love Me My Essentials, and the showcases from DC were fun.
They were for me, the reader. I wanted to read.
But the other problem is, the profit margin for the amount of stuff in it is pretty low.
The only thing I bought was previews. So, we'll be ready for the preview show.
Yay!
No Marvel, no DC.
Yeah, they're supposed to be in this week's shipment, I guess.
Yeah, I believe
which has been delayed.
Yeah. That was the other thing, too, is I looked to see, because usually I'll go out and I'll buy previews, and then all of a sudden, hey, look, on Saturday, my shipment showed up. And when we buy them through Discount Comic Book Service, it's $1. But, folks, I spent $5 whole for you.
$5?
$5? That's a lot of Taco Bell. Speaking of which, I'm hungry. Want to go to Taco Bell?
Yeah, we'll stop somewhere.
Okay, Taco Bell in front of us. Our next stop, our favorite shop.
Our favorite?
Well, I enjoy going there. Cedar Cliff. And it's Thursday, so Steve Brown should be there.
Let's see if he behaves today.
Hey, look, a shop. Donut. Oh, we need more than one.
Yeah.
I'm
not sharing a donut with you.
No, we still have bitter over the old bottom of the line artificial chocolate donuts versus Tim Horton road trip.
I miss Tim Horton so much. Yeah, we got a Dunkin' Donut in Chaska, and every time I think, I'll go up there, for breakfast, or, grab donuts for breakfast, they got a line, and it's like, I am not waiting in a line of 7 cars for cheap, crappy donuts.
They're not cheap.
Okay, I'm not waiting in a line for crappy donuts when the ones at Quick Trip or Holiday are better.
I'll give you that. I do love Holiday donuts. I've had Quick Trip a few times. Not the same. Something about you get used to a certain texture, certain taste, and you're like...
Well, I think this is a very Minnesota thing. The donuts for Holiday in the Twin Cities are made by the same people who make the donuts for Byerly's and Lund's. So you're getting, better ingredients and stuff.
Remember I geeked about the online personality, Jason Matheson. He has a biscuit shop in Rosedale.
Yeah.
At Kowalski Markets now, they bake his biscuits to his recipes. So if you ever if you got one nearby and you're in the morning, want to try them, really, really good. Different breakfast flavors. I like the cheddar bacon one. I keep looking at all the different flavors. I'm like, I never had that. So, and that might be a Minnesotan thing too, because when I traveled a lot, I would go into like a Quick Trip or a 7-Eleven or whatever, and they didn't have donuts. They served beer and other light alcohol like that, but they didn't have donuts. But they did have plenty of Dunkin' Donuts in town, so...
Donuts and beer.
No.
That's the breakfast at Champions.
You had to make 2 separate stops.
Oh.
Yeah, they weren't
donuts and beer, though. That sounds good. It's like chicken and waffles.
Well, that's part of the new comic store. If I do, I'll like they have down in Florida, the Dungeon Lair, I believe the name of it. I'll have the comics.
AM 1440 right there, baby.
I'll have a bar in the back, so you can go sit there and your girlfriend can go have a drink while you geek.
And if she drinks it up, maybe she'll buy a comic.
There is that. I thought there was a Taco Bell down here.
There is.
Oh, there it is. Hiding behind the pine tree. Yeah, you people don't have to worry about horrors of pine trees.
Still remember when somebody moved up here from Texas, they'd never seen a pine tree just growing. She was like, why are all the Christmas trees around? It's like, we have them all the time. More than just at Christmas.
Mere blocks away is Cedar Cliff, but as I had not had my breakfast this morning, I'm hungry, so we're going to take a brief Taco Bell run.
Oh, there's Trader Joe's.
Trader! If this one doesn't open and let us in, I'm not going. I'm a much with Joe Pesci and they, you know what, in the drive-thru.
So we're just leaving Cedar Cliff.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, Taco Bell's lobby was closed, so fuck you, Taco Bell. I'm still hungry. But we went over to Cedar Cliff. Steve was there. Always a joy to talk with him.
Found out more stuff about the ending of Shinders.
Ooh.
Like, Nick always wanted to know what happened to their warehouse of comics. And Steve let us know that while he worked at Shinders, he pretty much had sold off all the good stuff. Which, when I worked there from 88 to 92, they had like rows and rows of bronze and silver stuff down in the basement. And you'd order it, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, here's a nice big old box of Silver Age Marvel. Back then it was going for like 10 to 20 bucks a pop. So you'd price it up, put it on the wall. But he said they'd pretty much sold out of everything that anybody wanted. Now, one of the things I saw the Bronze Age House of Mystery Omnibus Volume 1. And while it wasn't dirt cheap, he was selling it for $70, I passed on it because that was back when they were still reprinting stuff from the 50s and weren't doing, it was more the ultra tame, ultra lame horror books. It wasn't until the 70s that they brought in a lot of the Filipino artists and the art took a jump up, and then horror had become huge, so they were much better at their horror by the 70s. This was late 60s, early 70s. Stories weren't as good, and I've got them in showcases, and they're not good enough for an omnibus. The second volume's good. First one, not that good. Joe, what did you see? I saw you picked up reader copies.
Yeah, they had those, what do they call Marvel Tales type things, normally selling for $10, and they have 2 or 3 copies. More Star-Lord, a couple Avengers that had Moondragon on it. There was a third one. It just, if I didn't have it, I picked it up. Good reading copies. He's selling them for $3 a pop, and there's things I can bring to work, read, and if I damage them by accident, I don't care. Plus, I might just leave them behind, let somebody else read them. So, as far as what I saw, there was the big omnibus he had, Marvel Universe by Chris Claremont. I'm always torn about buying it because it'd be cool to have everything in one book, but it's also things I have in other books and other formats.
I have it, and there's stuff in there that I never thought would ever be reprinted, ever. Such as his run on War is Hell.
Yeah, that's what got my attention, and some of the Captain Britain stuff he had done. And things I know I don't have, like he did I believe he did X-Men versus Fantastic Four miniseries.
Yep.
I don't have that. It'd be cool to just have it. It wasn't something I would go out of my way to buy because it wasn't all that great, but
my problem with it is it's supposed to be, here's all the non-X-Men stuff that Chris Claremont did. Well, it doesn't have his Marvel team-up stories.
no.
Which, that was a fantastic run. Every time he does a Q&A, I try real hard to say, hey, you ever going to do Spider-Man again? Because you had such a good take on him. And he just, no. He, by the way, Chris Claremont's going to be writing 2 X-Men books later this year, both miniseries. So Marvel's actually going to get him to do some writing because they've been paying him not to write.
If they tie it into current X-Men, I might buy him. If it's just his fantasy world, what was it they call X-Men Forever? Where, here's the way I would have done it, and Jim Lee had to vote me on.
Yeah.
I tried it, and I was like, eh.
I thought his Nightcrawler series was good. That was set in the current Marvel universe, but that was before Hickman changed everything.
Curse you, Hickman.
I like the new X-Men.
Oh, I think I like it. I'm curious as to where it's going.
I'm curious as to where it's going because he had a specific ending in mind, and Marvel said, no, it's selling too well. We're not ending it. But, you know, they've got good people working on it now, so. And I like them in the trade paperbacks.
Get your phone nearby.
Yes, I do.
Google Taco Bell. I'm still hungry. Jojo hungry. Which is ironic, because half the time we're out geeking, I'm not the one that's hungry. I want to go eat. No, we don't have to eat now.
No eating.
No eating for you. Steve's always got tons of stuff, interesting things, stuff that I would buy. And he's still got the Hulk 181 5.0 for $500. I think it was a 5.0.
Minnesota 77 North
And
Bloomington.
I'm like, you know
Minnesota
what?
77 South Cliff Road East Geeking. Arrival time on this route is similar to Minnesota 77 North Bloomington, Minnesota 77 South Nichols Road Egan.
It's on Old
In
Shakopee Road.
1.8 miles. Exit to County Highway 1, Old Shakopee Road.
Okay, that's coming up. No, if I wasn't going to Hawaii, I would probably have jumped on that Hulk 181.
How much is he selling that Claremont book for?
About 500. Oh, the Claremont book?
Yeah.
77.
Okay. But he really didn't have anything new from our time we went on Black Friday.
In 1 mile, use the right lane to exit
And
right.
He's also
Then
said,
turn right. Watch
you know,
out vehicle on shoulder ahead.
with Penguin having the rights or whatever to publicly, or whatever, they don't do the discounts like Marvel used to do. That Marvel used to just ridiculously discount crap they wanted out of the warehouse. Penguin doesn't work that way. He did tell a story about how they came to him and said, here's a bunch of damaged books, we'll give you 50% off retail. And he said no, because he's used to buying at now 40% off retail. So Penguin, he speculates that he doesn't know if Penguin's going to just shut down the distribution for Marvel, but I don't see that happening.
I don't. Steve's a great guy for what he does.
Exit right to County Highway 1, Old Shakopee Road.
But I
Then
take
turn right to Old Shakopee Road.
everything he says with a pillar of salt, because he's the one who
Turn
also
right
told
to
us
Old
that the
Shakopee
source
Road.
was going to shut down
Then
soon.
use the right lane to exit right to Minnesota 77 South.
Which way am I going?
You're going to turn that way.
All right. She's like making all these options. You're going this way, that way, this way. No, just left, right, forward.
Use the right lane to exit right to Minnesota 77 South.
No, I'm
Hold
not-
on, no,
I'm
no,
not
no, no,
going
no.
to that one.
No.
She's trying to get me back to the one with the closed lobby.
How dare she? I may have to fire it up again.
Or just Google map it.
Yep.
Go from there.
There, Taco Bell. See, there's one in Richfield.
That works. That's kind of where we're heading.
Okay.
Not now, but I mean.
Use the right lane to turn right onto Bloomington Avenue South.
No. Can you tell where she's trying to angle us?
Yes,
In
we're
a
going to
quarter
the
mile,
Richfield
use
one.
the right lane to turn right onto 12th Avenue South. In a quarter mile, turn right onto 12th
not
Avenue
doing
South.
that. Where is it? Can you tell by the map?
Yeah, it's up by 494.
494.
It's the one right off 494.
And what?
Take the next right onto 12th Avenue South.
Nope.
494 and Nicollet.
Okay. See, because if I keep going forward, I'll run into Nicollet. So.
There, that'll be fun to edit out.
Whee! Yeah.
This is how I used to go to work at the first group home I worked at. Because they were at 10,001 Lindale. The house isn't there anymore. It's a parking lot for the funeral home next door. Funeral home hated us because every couple of years the kids would break into it. There's one time they broke in and found all the sacramental wine. So, thankfully I wasn't working that night. And the staff who was tried to wake them up the next morning. They were all just, can't get anybody up to go to work. To go to school.
Hey, it must have been desperate because it really didn't taste that good.
Oh, they didn't care. It was alcohol.
Yeah.
And the staff who was doing it later that day, some guy from the funeral home's pounding on the door. Your son of a bitch of kids drank all our wine. See, that was a group home where if you got caught sneaking out at night when you came back, we'd take your shoes. And you wouldn't get your shoes back until you'd, done whatever penance they had decided. Because they said, well, we can't stop you from leaving. But if we take your shoes, you'll at least think about it. The best night for one of those was these two kids. I come in, it's a Saturday night, and I'm doing the overnight the next morning. So I come in at it's like 7 or 8 o'clock. So that's where Blue Sun Soda is.
Oh, do you want to stop?
Sure.
All right, I'm taking a right, so we'll have to do a bit of a...
But two of the kids are like, oh, I am so tired, I'm going to bed early. So tired, I'm going to bed early. It's like, no, you're not. I'm not that dumb. So,
how dumb are you?
They go to bed about 9 o'clock. Everybody else stays up till midnight. And if they're going to pull the I'm really tired, I pull it too. I go, oh man, I can't wait till you guys are asleep. Once your lights are off and I'm sure you're out, I am out like a light. So they all go up to bed. I turn out all the lights in the office because they could see if the lights in the office were on because the light would shine onto the yard. And I had a little book light, so I put that on my book, and I opened the door to the office to the sunroom. About 10 minutes later, I hear thump thump on the roof. Then thump 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 thump. And I watch them jump down off the roof for the sunroof. So I open the door and I go, hey, you guys, I don't think you signed out. Can you? And they take off running. Now I know where they're going, so I call their parents. And then I called their girlfriend's parents. And from what I hear, first thing they did, they tried to go to their girlfriend's parents' house, and the parents there had every light on, and they took off. And then they go to their parents' house, and their parents called the cops, because, hey, these kids are on probation, we don't want them here. Their parents' house and cops are there. So they show up 4 o'clock, and I had locked every door, everything. 4:30 on the window. I go to the back door and I go, oh, did you guys have fun? Shut up. Okay, give me your shoes. Fuck you. All right, you don't want to give me your shoes? That's cool. Shut the door, lock it again, go back 10 minutes later. Give me your shoes. Okay. Now, we've already talked to you, already left a message with your probation officer. You son of a bitch, I hate you. Okay, good.
Not here for your love.
You don't know how sweet that is.
You got the recorder on?
Yeah.
Oh, cool. All right, we're taking a detour. Blue Sun Soda Shop. Why? Because we figured out where it is.
I knew they'd open a second one, but I didn't know where they had it. But I'm really happy we found it. And now I can stop here more often. I don't have to go all the way up to BFE. You know what BFE is, right?
No.
Bumfuck Egypt.
What?
I have no idea where that phrase came from, but it's a phrase I have heard forever. We'll be back.
Blue Soda Shop. Where are we? It's on the corner of
We're in Bloomington.
Nicollet and 98th. Same place we used to travel up in Spring Lake Park, but now closer to Cory. As if you didn't need a good reason to spend more money.
And get more soda.
Yeah. I was easy because I just dig through the diet section. Usually when I bring home, like, my wife likes cherry soda, but if I bring it home, she never drinks it. Mainly because she's not big on soda.
I'm big on root beers.
No rat bastard, though.
No.
We registered our disappointment.
They didn't have any of the skeleton sodas, because I have seen, within the last year or so, the Coca-Cola and the King and Brainwash Blue. But I think when you shut down Hot Comics, they kind of went, yeah, it's not worth it anymore.
Oh, yeah, the distributor. In the meantime, the sun has gone away. There may be snow in our future.
Yeah, when we started, it was really, not a cloud in the sky. Now there's not
a sky in the cloud.
Now it's all gray. One thing I did not know as we get into our weather talk, Minnesota has more cloud cover than most states in the Union.
I didn't know that.
Neither did I, but we have more cloudy days than any other state.
Don't know why there's so many clouds there in the sky. Stormy Daniels. All right. So now, try 2 for Taco Bell.
Yes. I haven't told a lot of stories of my time at that first group home, I don't think. I should dredge up some.
We did in the beginning. It's just like I haven't done a Tales from the Shop in a while.
Because, I was there for 8 years. I still remember my interview, the person who interviewed me. We need you to promise that you'll stay for at least 6 months.
It's like when I applied for working at Cub Food Overnight Stock before TSA, and I was like, oh, if you have perfect attendance for the first 3 months, you get $300. And I'm like, my head just kind of like smacked me once. Like, really? Yeah. Which kind of told me, I guess this is the quality of the job here. It wasn't hard. It was just...
Well, overnights are just naturally hard.
Yeah, and for me, the big part was I had thought I could come home. Chris would get up. She'd have to go to work, and I would watch the kids, a.k.a. turn on public television and try to sleep.
And this was before streaming, so you can't just go here.
Yeah. And Dana was easy because she loved Barney, but Holly was less fussy. She kind of got into Teletubbies. Thank God she didn't do Booba. She did like Elmo. She didn't like the rest of Sesame Street. She tolerated Ernie just because she knew Elmo was on afterwards. Because it was like a half hour of what we would consider Sesame Street. The cartoons, the live animation on the street. And then there was a 15-minute thing where Big Bird was trying to find Ernie. And then the last 15 minutes was all Elmo. And I get that people loved it, but... Hey there, Elmo, oh, I can't even form words at that decibel level. Frequency. What's your frequency, Kenneth?
My son wasn't really a Sesame Street guy. He liked Teletubbies until he turned about 3, and then he made fun of anybody who watched Teletubbies.
Brilliant.
Same with Barney. He watched Barney until he reached a certain age, and then anybody who watches Barney's a baby. But Thomas the Tank Engine, that was his jam. I could watch with him because it was during the George Carlin and then Ringo Starr era.
Ringo Starr was first. He only did it for a year. I watched it because Didi Khan was hot. I remember I was still working at Sears, and I was having one of those days where I was sick, but, well, come in anyways. And so I came in anyways, and which is dumb because commission sales and sickness don't necessarily go together. So I was sitting just at a place where a TV was, and I suddenly heard Ringo Starr's voice. And I was like, what the hell? I look up, and it's Thomas being narrated by Ringo Starr. And then as the show broke, there was a miniature Ringo Starr talking to Didi Khan. And I was like, what the hell did I just watch? And the next Saturday, I got there early, and I started watching, and I was you know, every half hour I'd come back, look at the show. Nope, that's not it. Nope, that's not it. And finally caught it. Like it's 10:30. And
after we get over 494, I think you turn right.
Okay. Yeah, it was, I started watching and I loved the Thomas parts because I like trains. And even engineer trains were kind of cool. And then he only stayed for a year. And then the storyline was he left, that Mr. Conductor left with the gentleman who was he was the guy running the station house. It was a black actor. And when he left, Mr. Conductor went with him. And then a new Mr. Conductor came, a.k.a. George Carlin, because Shining Time Station always has to have a Mr. Conductor. The difference being is where Ringo obviously was bringing it in from probably overseas, because he would appear in a few segments with the characters, the live characters, but his big thing was appearing, and oh, that reminds me of a story that Thomas got
into.
There,
frontage road.
Okay. Oops. But George Carlin got more involved. He was more in the storylines, he was more live action, and then of course he narrated the Thomas parts. There was a Thomas the Tank Engine movie, which I don't recall. I think Peter Fonda was in it.
We were out of it by then, but
yeah.
He did have the books. He loved the books.
And then I think
I read those books so many times.
Alex Baldwin did the narration. Because eventually there was just Thomas himself. There was no Shining Time Station attached to it. So
there you go, kids. Crazy Comics and Thomas the Tank Engine.
Yay!